Policing TV. I'm delighted to be joined by John Tizard, the recently elected Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner. John, thank you so much for joining us here on Policing TV. I'd like to ask you first to say a few words of introduction to yourself, because those outside Bedfordshire, your electorate, won't know much about John Tizard. Do tell us a little more.
Well, thank you, Bernard, and it's great to be on this programme with you. As you say, my name is John Tizard. I've lived in Bedfordshire almost 50 years, and for 18 of those years, I was a leading member of the former Bedfordshire County Council and led the Labour group for over 14 years, and from time to time was leader of the council as we slipped in and out of minority control as we were hung. I was also a member of the former Bedfordshire Police Authority, and I've always had a passion for public service, and I see police as a fundamental part of the local public service ecosystem. So I come to this role with a good knowledge of the county, a good local authority background, and I also do advisory work with a range of public service organisations, which also gives me great authority, both locally and nationally, and internationally for that matter. But really, what I'm about is ensuring we have a police service which is outstanding and serves the interests of the people of our county.
So the election campaign concluded just a few days ago. When you were out campaigning, what were the people of Bedfordshire telling you that they wanted from their police and crime commissioner, and indeed from Bedfordshire Police?
I think one outstanding issue was the concern that they didn't recognise that there was community policing. There was a lack of visibility of policing, a feeling that policing was not as responsive as it might be. And I recognise there is community policing. One of my missions is to reinvigorate that, but to really get that visibility. So people felt the police were distant, they weren't available to them. There was a feeling that there was a lot of antisocial behaviour. And this was in, whether you're in the rural villages or in urban Luton or urban Bedford. There was also concern about issues such as on-street drug dealing. And I think going back to that issue about visibility of policing, a feeling that even when people report a crime or an issue, that the police didn't seem to be following through. Now, there may be a very good reason for that, but there's a lack of communication and keeping people informed and lack of responsiveness. Those were really important issues. There was also, I was not surprised, but was encouraged to hear, there was a real lack of understanding that Bedfordshire's police's financial position is not good, that it's an underfunded police service, not least because government and successive governments have regarded Bedfordshire as a rural county. And I challenge anyone who knows the county, looks at Luton, which has all the characteristics of a metropolitan borough, has an international airport, 2 motorways, 30 miles north of London. I could go on. And then to say we're the same as rural Norfolk or Cumbria in terms of funding. So there's a real issue there to, but the public recognise that, and clearly there has to be a real dialogue with government, whether it's the current government or a successor government, about getting a proper funding approach and support for the county.
So we're starting then to pick up on the aims, the ambitions that you have for your first term of office, your next 4 years. So funding is an element of that. You've talked about neighbourhood and engagement. Tell us about that ambition that you have for.
Sorry, as I cut across your belly.
No, carry on. So your ambition as Bedfordshire PCC.
Yeah, I mean, I had 6 missions which I promoted throughout the campaign. One was the restoration of what I call community, or you call neighbourhood policing. And I think that's more than just officers on the beat. Important as that may be, it's about officers who know their patch, the people in the patch know them. They have a tenure of position, because so often it seems that community officers are here, just begin to know a place and go, and also work very closely with parish town councils, local business community and community groups, and become very much embedded in problem solving and prevention, as well as being a source of intelligence for policing on bigger and more critical crime issues. There is in Bedfordshire, sadly, as there is across the country, an increase in crime against women and children, particularly women, and I think I've got an ambition to reduce that very significantly. I know an incoming Labour government would want to see it half within the first 5 years of that government, but we certainly need to make a contribution towards that. And I'm very aware of sort of related issues of modern day slavery, trafficking, and sexual exploitation, which goes on. People always say in Luton, actually, it's county-wide, and we've got to really tackle that. And the whole area of serious crime, because it's all very well saying we want to deal with the inverted commas lesser crime, but knife crime is is a very serious issue, and we've got to look to see how we prevent and how we incentivize young people and help young people not to fall into crime, and particularly into the heinous knife crime areas. And fraud and cybercrime are again on the increase. I think Bedfordshire has one of the highest levels of fraud and cybercrime in the country, sadly. And again, that requires very specialist policing. And I want Bedfordshire Police, hopefully within the 4-year term, to become outstanding across the piece. In the last HMIC inspection, we were not outstanding in all but one of the 9 criteria. And I think that's something we have to work on, and I know it's something the Chief Constable is committed to do too. So I see we're working very much in partnership there. And the other is to put victims at the heart of the wider local criminal justice system. And I see the Police and Crime Commissioner role very much as setting the strategy for policing, setting the budget, holding the Chief Constable to account, but it's also about coordinating and encouraging improvements and better cooperation across the other agencies, probation, CPS, and so on, and working very much in partnership with other bodies. I talked earlier about being part of the public service ecosystem. I don't believe you can have effective policing unless you have effective partnership working between police, local government, the other criminal justice services, and the community itself. So those are going to be very much my priorities for the next 4 years.
Now, it's your first term. You were elected, so the vote concluded on polling day last Thursday. The count was immediately following that. It's now Tuesday following a bank holiday, so I imagine that over the weekend you've not yet met the Chief Constable. You probably even haven't yet met your Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner team. So that's all ahead of you. Which does rather support this question, which is in you will draw on your experience, which will give you a fast start. But are there ways in which others can help you, can support you in allowing you, with the force and your team and other agencies, to deliver the very best policing across Bedfordshire?
I certainly believe one of my roles, both within the county but externally with experts, is to listen and learn. I can't sit in an office in Bedford or even sitting at home in Sheffield and believe I understand everything that's going on in the county or understand all the issues facing police and what the best practice is and what we need to do. So one of the things I will be doing in the county is meeting the public on a regular basis, meeting key stakeholders, listening to them, and then having dialogue with the Chief Constable and others about what that means and how we can shape policing to meet the needs. But I'll also be looking for advice and expertise both through the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, but also through perhaps bodies such as your own, Bernard. but and other experts, because I believe any public service, or indeed actually any organisation, whether it's public or private, must learn. And I think one of the things I want to understand is how do we import into Bedfordshire some of the best practice from elsewhere, and also to demonstrate we are an outstanding police service, how do we export good practice to others? So I think it's very much about learning. You're right, I haven't taken up role yet. I take it up in a couple of days' time. I've had a conversation with the chief executive of the office, and I had a very good meeting with the chief constable prior to the election, and I'm looking forward to meeting Trevor, the chief constable, on Friday and beginning to build a professional relationship with him. But I will be on a learning. There's a lot of learning to be done, but I'm not going to allow that to stop me getting on with some of the things that need to be done. One of my ambitions is that we'll have a new police and crime plan by the end of September at the latest. I think that's really important. So work on that will start immediately, appointing a deputy. I've already nominated Councillor Yumi Ali from Luton. She'll take that post in June, but also to begin this process of having dialogue and listening and talking and just receiving information and ideas.
Now, John, it would be remiss of me if I wasn't to acknowledge that there's been quite a political change in the makeup of police and crime commissioners. There are many more Labour PCCs than there were in the last term, and consequently, very much fewer Conservative PCCs. Um, any thoughts from you on the how that political balance in the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners and the makeup of PCCs might change the way that things are done nationally as well as locally?
Well, clearly the association has to have a relationship with governments of whatever political persuasion. I'm optimistic, not least based on the results of last week, that we'll have a Labour government before the end of this calendar year, or very early next year, because I don't know when Mr. Sunak's going to call the general election. And I think the fact that there is there'll be 10 of us from the Labour Party who are PCCs plus deputy mayors from some of the metropolitan areas, will mean we can work very closely with Yvette Cooper and her Home Office team, should that team be in place. And I'm looking very much forward, for example, to getting more than Bedfordshire's fair share of the 13,000 additional officers.
John Tizard, thank you so much for your time here on Policing TV. Very best wishes for your first term as Bedfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner. And I look forward to Policing TV and Policing Insight following with great interest the work that's going on within the county. John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bernard.